Welcome back, everybody. Today we're looking at Stamina Nightblades for Flames of Ambition. This video might be a little longer, but I'll try to make it as short as possible without leaving out any important details, because we're going to be talking about two builds. First of the bow option, and then second of the dual wield bow option as well. And then I'll also give you a tip for dual wield in the end. Also. Alright, so let's quickly buff up and look at our stats. We've got 64 points into stamina. We're on 14k max magicka, 23k max health, almost 29k max stamina. Stem recovery is super good with 1800. We've got 4000 weapon damage and 68 weapon critical on the bow option of the build. We're using the Thief Mundustone for increased weapon critical. And for our food, we're using the Ateum Takeaway Broth. This one gives us max health, max stamina, health recovery, and stamina recovery. This is quite expensive though, so if you can't craft this or afford this, the second best option would be the Dubious Cameron Throne, which also gives you max health, max stamina, and stamina recovery. A little less of each, but it's still perfectly fine for dungeons and trials and everything. If you are doing really end game kind of stuff like VCR plus or VAS plus, I'd probably spend the money on this though, because it does make a difference in the very hard end game content. So those two are good to have with you at all times. And then obviously we're using Essence Weapon Power. This gives us major brutality, increasing our weapon damage, major savagery, increasing the weapon critical, and major endurance, increasing our stamina recovery. And it also restores 7487 stamina immediately. Okay, let's get right into the skills for the bow option. First thing we've got on the bar is Lethal Arrow. This comes from the bow skill line, and this will be our spammable. It starts as Snipe. You can morph it to Lethal Arrow, and what it does is it shoots an arrow at the enemy, applying the poison status effect, and also dealing 8000 poison damage. It also afflicts the enemy with minor defile, reducing their healing received and health recovery for 4 seconds. The next thing we've got on our bar is an AoE skill, sort of. It's called Silver Shards. Starts out as Silver Bolts in the Fighter's Guild ability, and what this does is you fire a sort of Dawnguard Vampire Hunter's crossbow, dealing 6000 physical damage, and it also deals 22% less damage to enemies near the initial target, so it's a bit of an AoE skill. So Lethal Arrow looks like this. It's a charged sort of ability, a channeled one. And then the crossbow, the Silver Shards look like this, and they will hit more than the initial target. If there were enemies next to it, they would also take damage. Mostly, though, we're using the Silver Shards for the Fighters Guild passives. You don't really actually use this in rotation, but if you're in combat, it's nice to have on the bar if you need a bit more AoE damage, because most of our skills are, in fact, single target skills. So this is just here for the passives and for, say, trash pulls in dungeons or trials. Okay, the next thing we've got is Relentless Focus. This is pretty much on every Stamina Nightblade build. What this does is, for 1 minute, all of your light and heavy attacks will increase your critical damage done by 2% up to 5 times, so you can stack this up to 5 times, meaning you have a 10% critical damage increase with 5 stacks. And while active, if you have the 5 stacks, you can use this ability and shoot a spectral arrow at the enemy, dealing 14k disease damage and healing you for 33% of the damage dealt. So this looks like this. We're activating Relentless Focus, then we're doing our light attack rotation, sort of. And as soon as we've hit 5 light attacks, you will see the button turns purple, and this will be your Spectral Arrow proc, meaning now you can fire the Spectral Arrow, dealing even more damage. And then you build up the 5 stacks again. 5 light attacks, and here it goes again, and then you can fire the Spectral Arrow again. The next thing on our front bar is from the bow skill line. It's the last thing you unlock. This will be Poison Injection, the morph of Poison Arrow. and this will deal poison damage and an additional 8,000 poison damage over 10 seconds. Plus, it is very strong in execute because it deals up to 100% more damage to enemies under 50% health. It's very simple, looks like this. Arrow fired, and now as you can see above the target set for 10 seconds, it will take poison damage over time. The next thing we've got on our bar is Camouflaged Hunter from the Fighters Guild, the morph of Expert Hunter. And what this does is, while slotted, you gain Major Savagery, increasing the weapon critical. We already get that from our potions, so that's not the main reason we got this on. But we also do gain Minor Berserk for 5 seconds after we deal critical damage from an enemy's flank, increasing our damage done by 5%. So this will increase our damage as long as we're attacking the enemy from the side or behind. Plus, it will also give us passives from the Fighters Guild skill line, just like our ultimate, the Flawless Dawnbreaker, which is on the front bar, which we don't actually use because usually we are ranged and too far away to even hit any target with the Dawnbreaker, but it is on here merely for the passives of the Fighters Guild as well. Moving on to the back bar, the first thing we've got from the Shadow skill line is the Dark Shade. This will summon a shade version of yourself to attack the enemy for 20 seconds, dealing 2,500 magic damage, and occasionally it will do a whirlwind spin sort of, dealing area of effect damage as well. Plus the shade will inflict minor maim, reducing the enemy's damage done by 5% for seconds. Pretty much looks like this. Just summon the shade by your side, and as soon as you attack something, the shade will start attacking it as well. Next thing we've got on the bar is Leeching Strikes. This comes from the Siphoning skill line. What this does is, it will imbue our weapons with soul-stealing power, causing light and heavy attacks to heal us and restore stamina. So this is very good for sustain. Plus, it lasts for 20 seconds when the effect ends. So when it runs out, you restore an additional 4k stamina. So you want this to run out and not recast it before it runs out. It's one of the rare skills that you actually want to run out and recast it after it run out. Just looks like this, and then you can see it above my health bar ticking down 15, 14, 13 seconds, and all of our light attacks will heal us and restore stamina to us. So it's very nice for sustain. The next thing we've got is Echoing Vigor. If you are only running a bow build, you can use the other morph, the green one, which will only heal yourself, but therefore have a bit of a stronger heal. I used to run that one, but I switched it to Echoing Vigor because I tend to swap from bow to dual wield quite frequently these days, and when you're in a group and with the dual wield, then the Echoing Vigor is definitely the better morph because you heal yourself for 10k health over 8 seconds about, but you also heal your allies close to you, so everybody who's in that circle will also get heals, and for groups and raid trial teams, that's just a lot nicer. However, if you don't run dual wield at all, and if you just want to be a ranged bow DPS, then you probably won't have anybody next to you because you'll always be at range, and then the other morph would make more sense because you won't heal anybody because there's no one there anyway. So you just have a heal for yourself that's a bit stronger, but that's down to personal preference really. Next up is Endless Hail from the bow skill line. This is the morph of Volley, and this for 14 seconds will just cause arrows to hail down from the sky, dealing physical damage every 1 second for 12 seconds after a 2-second delay. So here's a 2-second delay, and then it starts, and every second the target will take damage, or all targets in this area will take damage. And the last thing we've got on our back bar is Consuming Trap. This comes from the Soul Magic skill line, and what this does is it will deal magic damage or physical damage over time, whichever is higher. Obviously for us that's physical damage, so it will deal almost 13k physical damage over 10 seconds. Plus you also restore magicka and stamina if the enemy dies while being affected by your Consuming Trap. So this is also very nice for sustain in trash groups. On the boss it will just do physical damage over time for 10 seconds, looks like this. Cast, and then the target will just take damage over time. Our main ultimate on the back bar will be the Ballista from the bow skill line. This starts out as rapid fire, morphed to ballista, and what this does is it summons a turret for 5 seconds, which will shoot at the enemy and deal around 50k, almost 50k physical damage, so it's quite a strong ultimate. Costs 175, and yeah, since we're at range, this will be our main ultimate, because all the other good Nightblade ultimates like Incap Strike or Flawless Dawnbreaker will not work, because on a bow build you're usually ranged. So I can actually show you. You just summon this turret to fire at the enemy. No, won't let me cast it. There you go. And it'll just deal a whole lot of damage over 5 seconds. Okay, so much for these skills in the bow build. We will quickly look at the passives here. This is very important because your physical penetration against enemies you're flanking will be increased, and oftentimes that will be the case. There's hardly any boss that you're facing while you're fighting it in any trial in this game, other than Sunspire, I guess. This means whenever an enemy dies within 2 seconds of being damaged by you, you restore 1000 magic and stamina, so this is very good for our sustain. This will increase our weapon critical on the front bar by 438. For the dual wield build, it will obviously be a bit more, because we'll be using more assassination skills on the front bar. And this will just, with an assassination ability slotted, increase our critical damage by 10%, and we'll always have the resolve, the relentless focus on the front bar, so we'll always have the increased critical damage by 10%. Plus, dealing critical damage grants the whole group and yourself minus savagery, increasing the weapon critical rating by another 1314 for 20 seconds. So this is also very nice because, as you might know, with the Flames of Ambition DLC, all the crit chance values have been dropped on all of the sets and most of the passives. So the minor savagery will definitely help out as well. In the Shadow skill line, increases your health, stamina, and magicka recovery by 15%. That's just great for every class, really. Over here, we've got, if we cast a Shadow ability, like our Dark Shade, we gain Major Resolve, increasing our physical and spell resistance by 6k for 6 seconds. We're not using any pieces of heavy armor. That would be for tanks more so. But every time we cast it, we do get that resistance buff, so that can't be bad for us at all. This will increase our max health by 3% for each shadow ability slotted. And then this will increase the duration of non-invisibility based shadow abilities by 2 seconds, so our Dark Shade will be up a little bit longer than it usually would. In the siphoning, after you drink a potion, we gain 20 ultimate. Obviously that's a great one. Increasing your max magicka by 8% while a siphoning ability is active, so as long as you have your leeching strikes active, you get increased max magicka, which is also nice because we do run quite a few skills that actually cost magicka. Soul Siphoner, increase your healing done. That's not too important for us. But on the back bar, we do have the leeching strikes, meaning our vigor will be 3% stronger on ourselves. So that's a good one to have as well, I guess, even though it's just 3%. And then casting a siphoning ability while in combat generates 2 ultimate. We don't actually cast that very often because it lasts for 20 seconds and you want to let it run out, so you'll cast it every 21 or 22 seconds. But getting 2 ultimate every 22 seconds is better than getting nothing, so I'd definitely go for that as well. Obviously you want everything in the bow skill line. These are actually quite interesting to look at because this one will give you a damage bonus of up to 12% against enemies at longer range. So if you do run a bow build, you might want to be far away from the opponent. Obviously you'll have to look at the range of your skills, like say your ballista has a range of 25 meters, this one of 28, this one of 35, this one of 28, so you don't really want to be any further than 25 meters away from the target, otherwise your skills won't work anymore. But the further away, the more damage you will actually deal on a bow build. So yeah, that is quite important to know. This one will increase your critical chance rating, again with a bow equipped. We do have one on both bars. This one will reduce your stamina cost of bow abilities by 15%, so that's also very good for us, makes our skills cost less. With a bow equipped, dealing damage with a light or heavy attacks increases the damage of your next bow ability by 5% for 5 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. So since our spammable is a bow ability and we're doing light attacks in between, this is very important for us as well. And then grants you major expedition after you roll dodge, increasing your movement speed. So that's not too important, but it is very nice to, after a roll dodge, be able to get back in place or even further away if necessary, a lot faster than usual. We don't need anything in the light or heavy armor skill line. We're only wearing medium pieces on both builds, the bow and the dual wield one. So you want all of the medium armor passives, of course, because they will make you stronger. Consuming trap, you could get something here to get that little thing where if your health drops below 20%, you deal 1,000 magic damage to enemies, but the damage is so minimal, it's probably not really worth it. Unless you have too many skill points, then you can just fill that all up to get your soul gems filled up and whatnot. Fighter's Guild, though, you definitely want this one, because it will reduce the cost of your Fighter's Guild abilities by 15%. This one will increase your weapon damage for each Fighter's Guild ability slotted, so that's 9% on the front bar at the moment. This one will, with the Fighter's Guild ability slotted, which we do on the front bar, you generate 3 ultimate whenever you kill an enemy, and that might very well be the case, because usually you finish things off on your front bar. And then having your Fighter's Guild abilities deal 20% more damage to undead, Daedra, or werewolves. I know we're not actually actively using Flawless Dawnbreaker or Camouflage Hunter, but or even Silver Shards. Well, I guess we might in trash fights, but on the dual wield build we'll definitely run Barbed Trap, so that is an important passive to get as well. Then Undaunted, even though we're just running one set of armor, like only medium armor, still get these passives, because this will restore 4% more health, stamina, and magicka if you take a synergy, and this will just give you a 2% bonus to increase your max health, stamina, and magicka. Assault and support, we don't need any of this. Alchemy, you want medicinal use, obviously, to make your potions last longer and have 100% uptime on them. And then for this build, I've chosen to be a Khajiit again, because of the critical damage increase by 12%, which is really nice. As you've seen in the other passives, we've got a lot of things that raise our crit chance. We're running sets on this build with a lot of crit chance, so even without any of the buffs from our passives active, we're already at like 68% crit chance, so it's definitely a good thing to run a Khajiit here, because we will crit a lot, our crit chance is very high, and when we do, all of our critical damage will be increased by 12%. Also, we get 915 bonus to max health, magic, and stamina, so all around nice stats, and nice recovery bonus to health by 100 and stamina and magicka by 85. Khajiits are just very strong this patch. Yeah, optionally, I think the second best option for this build, and also the dual wield one, would be the Dark Elf, followed by the Orc, and then maybe the Red Guard and Wood Elf. So those will be the top races. But however, if you are an Orc, there's no reason to race change. Khajiits are a bit stronger, but if you're a Dark Elf or an Orc, there's no reason to race change. And even Red Guard or Wood Elf, this build will still work fine on them anyway. Okay, let's look at the sets for the bow build. We are using the Master's Bow on the front bar. This one in Precise. You don't actually need to put poisons on here, because lethal arrow poisons things anyway. Just put a poison glyph or a disease glyph on the front bar, you'll be fine. So the Master's Bow in Precise, if you can get the perfected one, I just haven't been able to really grind Veteran Dragonstar Arena, so I'm presenting both of these builds with the normal Master's weapons now. But yeah, if you can get the perfected ones, definitely get them, because I think they have a nice weapon damage bonus on the front bar, or something like that. And yeah, what this will do, increases your weapon damage by 330 against targets affected by your poison arrow. So we've got poison arrow on the front bar where the Master's Bow is, and this lasts for 10 seconds. So for 10 seconds, your weapon damage against targets which are poisoned by the poison arrow or poison injection will be 330 more than it usually would. So this is very strong in boss fights, paired with the execute damage, the 100% more execute damage that poison injection brings with it is pretty strong. It's just a very nice thing to play. On the back bar, we'll have the Maelstrom's Bow. This will come from the Maelstrom Arena, as the name says. It infused with weapon and spell damage enchant to increase our weapon damage by another 452. And what this does is it will increase the damage Volley deals by 430 each tick. Volley is our endless hail morph here. And you'll see that getting higher: 29, 33, 36, 38, 41, 22 because it wasn't a crit, 46, 49, 51. By the way, about 80% of all of these ticks were critting, so much for crit damage or crit chance. But yeah, this is what the Maelstrom Bow does. It just makes the Endless Hail stronger every time it ticks. So this is very nice as well. Since we're using two sets of arena weapons on the front bar and back bar, we're obviously not running a monster set. So what we do is have Relicans from Cloud Rest on chest, waist, hands, legs, and feet, so on the body, all in Divines with max stamina enchants. This will give us Weapon Critical, Minor Slayer, increasing our damage done to Dungeon, Trial, and Arena monsters by 5%, and another Weapon Critical bonus. And then your light and heavy attacks apply a stack of Harmful Wind to your target for 5 seconds. The Harmful Winds deal 376 physical damage per stack every 1 second. And this can stack up to 10 stacks. So that's 3,760 extra physical damage every 1 second, which makes this set super strong. But you will be able to, or you will have to be able to keep it up. So here you see the wind above the target. There's the little blue symbol, and it will tick down. And you need to do a light attack at least every 5 seconds to maintain the stacks. We're at 4 stacks now. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now during your rotation, even while using other skills, you always need to light attack in between skills to keep these stacks up, because only then will you have the full damage of the Relican damage. Now they dropped off, and now it's only 335. 2 stacks, it's gonna go up 722. 3 stacks, it's gonna go up 1084. And if you keep on letting them drop off, you'll never reach the full potential of having the 3,000, over 3,000 physical damage every 1 second. You'll always scrounge around somewhere between 300 and 600 or 700 or 1,000, and then let it drop off and then start again at 300. So if you can't do your rotation and you light attack weaving right, drop this set and use something else like Vicious Ophidian, or the Venomous set from what's it called, Skyrim. Exactly, yeah. Because to make full use of this set, you need to keep the 10 stacks up at all times, or else it's just wasted, and there's better sets out there who would help you more to achieve higher damage. For our second set, on the shoulders, head, and jewelry. Shoulders and head also in Divines with max stamina enchants, and jewelry in Bloodthirsty with weapon damage enchants. We'll go with Zogwin's Warband. This comes from Frostwald, everybody's favorite dungeon. And this will increase your weapon critical, and your weapon critical give you physical penetration, which is nice in case you're running in a dungeon group where the tank doesn't have Alkosh or Tremor Scale or anything on. So you get a bit more physical penetration as well. And then when you deal critical damage, which we do a lot as you've seen, you gain a stack of precision, increasing your weapon critical for another 170 by 5 seconds, up to 10 stacks max. So that's another 1,700 weapon critical that we can gain from this. And then at max stacks, we also gain Minor Force, increasing all of our critical damage done by 10%. So we're already Khajiit, we already got a critical damage increase by 12%, and then another 10% because of the Minor Force here. This is why we don't have to run Channel Acceleration or Barb Trap, because this will be our source of Minor Force, and also this will really give us a lot more weapon critical rating, so that will almost always crit. Now for the rotation, really simple. You just want to make sure your Relentless Focus and Siphoning attacks are up, and then what you do is on the back bar, Endless Hail Dark Shade, Consuming Trap, and on the front bar, Poison Injection, and then you just spam your lethal arrow until your bow procs, then obviously you use that, and then you keep on spamming your lethal arrow until Endless Hail runs out, and then you recast Endless Hail, Shade, Trap, Poison Injection, bow proc, and then you just spam lethal arrow with light attacks until either the bow procs again or your Endless Hail runs out. Obviously I'm a bit slow here because of the purpose of showing you guys how it works. You kind of want to get a feeling for when your Endless Hail runs out. So that'll be about now. And then recast it just shortly before it runs out. Alright, so much for that. This is really simple. So really just Hail, Shade, Consuming, Poison Injection, and then you just spam your lethal arrow until your Spectral Bow procs or your Endless Hail runs out, and you go back to your back bar. When your Ballista is ready, you cast that obviously as well, then you'll be spamming a little less lethal arrows on the front there. But yeah, this effect, by the way, is the Zogwins one, with the white fog coming in. And that is it for the bow build, really. We'll go into the champion points later because they'll pretty much be the same for all three setups. I will now show you a setup that is for close range bow action, because sometimes, even though you are on a bow build, you will have to stay within the group. And what we'll do here then is use the Barbed Trap and the In-Cap Strike, because we can actually use In-Cap as the ultimate if we are close ranged. So we won't need the Ballista anymore. And therefore we'll just double bar the In-Cap Strike. Another thing we can do then is actually use the Barbed Trap. And on the back bar, everything is pretty much staying the same. So the way this goes is then why we're using the Barbed Trap. We're already getting the Minor Force from Zogwins, because if we are close ranged, we can actually use In-Cap Strike. We don't need Zogwins anymore because we can actually use the Barbed Trap. So what you can do then, and that will also be for the dual wield setup later on, is switch to the new set, Kinra's. This set comes from the Black Drake Willa. It's super strong. It gives you weapon damage bonus, weapon critical bonus, another weapon damage bonus, and dealing damage with a light or heavy attack grants you a stack of Burning Heart for 5 seconds, up to 5 stacks. While you have 5 stacks, you generate an aura of Wrath, granting you Major Berserk, increasing all of your damage done by 10%, not just your crit, all of your damage done by 10%. And while you have that aura of Wrath active, allies within 12 meters of you will gain Minor Berserk, increasing all of their damage done by 5%. So not only are you boosting your own damage by 10% for just for doing your rotation, you're also boosting your whole team's damage by 5%. Yeah, so this is really strong. Traits will be the same. So for Kinra's, we'll also go with the Bloodthirsty Jewelry with weapon damage enchants. The shoulders also in Divines with max stamina, just like with Zogwins before. And also the helmet in Divines with max stamina. So now we'll be running 5 Kinra's, 5 Relicans, and still the Master's Bow on the front bar and the Maelstrom Bow on the back bar. And the rotation will be the exact same, only we'll be casting Barbed Trap on the front bar. So still Hail, Shade, Consuming, Poison Injection, Lethal Arrow spam. This is the Wrath aura from Kinrath. And then the Barbed Trap before you bar swap and recast your Endless Hail. How many times you can spam Lethal Arrow is really up to you, how good your light attack weaving is. Barbed Trap and recast Endless Hail. Now one thing about In-Cap Strike, which also applies for the dual wield build later on, is that this will increase your damage done by 20% for 6 seconds. So preferably you want to cast this before you start your Lethal Arrow spam, because that's when all of your dots are running, and and when you're just spamming your lethal arrow. So that's basically when you're doing the most damage, because you have your endless hail, your consuming trap, your poison injection, and everything running, doing damage over time, and you're spamming the lethal arrow on top of it. So if your ultimate's ready, just do your backbar rotation, apply poison injection, then use your ultimate, and then use your bow proc for the extra damage, and spam your lethal arrows for the 20% damage increase for 6 seconds. Alright, so much for the close ranged bow build. Now we'll go into the dual wield build, which is probably what you guys have waited for. First we'll look at the skills. We're going to change a couple of skills again as soon as the target dummy lets us. Still in combat. I guess the Dark Shade is still attacking it. Okay, here we go. Alright, obviously we're not using a bow on the front bar. I really hope the game won't crash now, because last night I tried to record this video and it crashed when I was swapping weapons. Our spammable will be Surprise Attack. This comes from the Shadows skill line, starts as Veiled Strike, and all this does is deal about 8k physical damage. It can also apply the Sundered Status effect, and if you flank enemies with Surprise Attack, you will stun them and set them off balance as well. But this is just a nice spammable, so this will replace Lethal Arrow for the dual wield build. We don't really need the silver shards. What we do want is our Execute ability, Killer's Blade, from the Assassination skill line, starts as Assassin's Blade. Morph it to Killer's Blade. This will deal about 4k disease damage, but it will deal up to 300 more damage to enemies below 25% health. So this is our Execute, which we'll use as soon as the enemies hitting 25% health mark instead of Surprise Attack. This will go here on the front bar. Then obviously we don't need poison injection because we won't be running a bow on the front bar, but we will be running a dual wield set on the front bar. So what we'll go with here is Rending Slashes, the morph of Twin Slashes. This, much like poison injection, is a damage over time ability. Lasts for 10 seconds, will deal about... these values aren't correct, obviously, because we're not using dual wield at the moment. Will deal physical damage and then about 8k bleed damage over 10 seconds. So this will replace poison injection. And then on the back bar, everything will just stay the same. So now it looks like this. We've got our spammable Surprise Attack, our Execute Killer's Blade, still running Relentless Focus for the Spectral Bow proc, Rending Slashes instead of Poison Injection, Barbed Trap instead of Camouflaged Hunter. We're double barring In-Cap Strike. We got the Dark Shade on the back bar, still Leeching Strikes, Echoing Vigor, our heal, and Endless Hail, and the Consuming Trap. And what we'll do here is still run Kinra's Relicans, still run the Maelstrom Bow, but swap the Master's Bow to the Master's Daggers. And we'll want the Nirnhound one on the front bar, and the Precise one on the offhand. So main hand, Nirnhound, Precise, offhand. You can either run poison and disease damage glyph, or you can actually run poisons. The poisons are a little bit stronger, but if you just do random dungeon stuff and you don't want to waste poisons, the glyphs will just do fine as well. Alright, so that's really easy to swap out. We'll just do Master's Daggers for Master's Bow, and we changed a couple of skills on the front bar. And then the rotation will pretty much still be the same. So what we'll do is we'll open with the Barbed Trap, obviously, after casting the Leeching Strikes and the Relentless Focus. So the Barbed Trap, and the back bar will still be Hail, Shade, Consuming. Then we'll do the Rending Slashes to apply the Master's Daggers bonus, the Bow proc, and then we'll just spam Surprise Attack a couple times. If you're fast enough, you can go for a second Bow proc, but that's really down to you. The Bow procs are strong, but they're not so strong that you should let your dots run out, so always make sure that you're recasting your Endless Hail whenever you can. So we're spamming that. and Endless Hail runs out. Recast that. We're a bit late on this here, but you get the gist. I really just don't want you to copy a rotation that you can't keep up with. Just go your own way and recast your dots whenever they need to be recast. That's much more important than trying to get a second bow proc in here or something. Obviously the ultimate still counts the same thing that I just said before. You want to use that before you go into your spam phase. So you go like this. Use your ultimate, and then your bow proc, and then spam. And obviously the barb trap again before swapping. We'll need to use the barb trap. So this is the easy rotation for this setup. There is another version of it, which you can use if you wanted to. I'll show you that as well. So the first one is just easy, hail, shade, consuming, rending, bow proc, and then you spam. And barb trap, and then you swap back and reapply your back bar stuff. If you can get 2 bow procs in. If it comes late, like now, just go for 1. Could have used the ultimate there as well. Now the second option would be, since barb trap and dark shade both last about 20 seconds, so the dark shade is 20 seconds and the barb trap is 18 seconds. You could leave leeching strikes out. You'll not get any heals then, and you won't get any stamina back for your light attacks, but your sustain should still be fine. So optionally, if you are a bit more advanced concerning light attack weaving rotations and all that stuff, and you could put the trap on the back bar, and then every back bar rotation just alternate these two, and then have your Camo Hunter on the front bar just for the passives. And then the whole thing would look like, well, obviously it'd start with the trap still. So we'll start out with Hail Shade consuming trap. Slashes, spam on the front bar, obviously use the bow proc on the ultimate. And then the second time around on your back bar, you go with Hail Trap consuming trap. And when you come back to your back bar, you alternate it and go with Shade consuming trap. And then you come back again and you go Hail Barb Trap consuming trap. So this is a bit more damage in general, just because you don't overcast Shade and Barb Trap all the time, because you alternate them, and it's about 10-second rotation anyway. So yeah, this would be a little bit stronger, but if this confuses you and you just want to be able, which is kind of the point of the build, to just swap out Master's Daggers for Master's Bow and go from bow to dual wield really easily, and then you can choose whether you want the close ranged bow build with Kinras, or whether you want the first one with Zogvins, where you can really play at range and be far away. All of this is possible, and this is what I really like about this character or this build, because you can just be a ranged bow DPS, you can be a close ranged bow DPS, you can be a dual wield DPS, and all you have to have is 2 different sets for head, shoulders, and jewelry, and the Master's Bow and the Master's Daggers for the front bar. Everything else will just stay the same, so it's really versatile. You can really adjust to situations. If your team goes, hey, we want to do Veteran Asylum Sanctuarium, and you know a bow build, a ranged one, will be way stronger in there, because you constantly have to kite AoEs and walk around the place and stuff, then you can just go for the bow option. And if they're telling you, hey, we're going Sunspire, yeah, sure, let me just put the Master's Daggers on, and I'll do more damage that way then. So really nice options here. I hope you enjoy it. I really like this character. I play on it a lot lately. Quickly going to the champion points before the video is over. Green one is obviously just quality of life stuff. So the passives I choose for slottables are the Treasure Hunter one to increase my loot or quality of loot from chests, the Rationer, so my drinks and potion and food lasts longer, the Liquid Efficiency, so when I use a potion or a poison, I have a 10% chance not to consume it, because the weapon pots are quite expensive. Steed's Blessing for 20% more movement speed out of combat, just to get from one boss to the next a little bit quicker. You'll start out here with Gilded Fingers for increased gold gain, then you go to Fortune's Favor, then to Wanderer, then to Steadfast Enchantments, and then you can access these 4. Remember, you don't have to fill these up. It's good enough to put 10 points in there to unlock the next node, and then put 10 points in here, and then in here, and then you can make your way over there. Blue stuff. Obviously, we want Tireless Discipline, because max stamina, 1040 max stamina more, is very nice for us. That's our main resource. We want Precision for the 640 extra crit chance as well. And then in this tree, the sub-tree Extended Might, we want Piercing for more penetration, Battle Mastery, and Mighty for more weapon damage. So the left tree would be the Magicka DPS one, and the right one is the Stamina DPS one you want to get here. As slottables, the ones I've leveled up are Backstabber for increased crit damage while flanking enemies, Fighting Finesse for general increased crit damage, because our crit chance, especially with Zogwins, goes through the roof, so these two will really deal a lot of damage. Deadly Aim for more damage done by single target attacks, and Thaumaturge for more damage done by damage over time attacks, because we're using the Master's Bow or Master's Daggers, which work really well with Rending Slashes or Poison Injection. So this is nice, and the only real area of effect damage we have is the Volley. Not quite sure if the Dark Shade counts, but just for Volley, and like as I said, this is just the preferred setup right now. If you wanted to, or you're not even flanking because you're running Sunspire, obviously you got to take Backstabber out because you can't hit the dragon from behind, and then you can put Thaumaturge in, Biting Aura in, excuse me. Alright, so much for that. Once you've filled all these up, just make sure you get some mitigation going here by going for a quick recovery for increased healing taken, or preparation for reduced damage done from non-player attacks, or from magical attacks, or martial attacks. This is mitigation then. I'll go for damage first, for mitigation later, and then I'll just hope I won't die. Have faith in your healers though. Yeah. Over here you want Rejuvenation for increased magic health and stamina recovery, Ironclad for increased armor, Boundless Vitality for increased max health, and Bloody Renewal for whenever you kill an enemy you restore 1500 stamina. This is very strong. After that, focus on Hero's Vigor for increased max health, and then on Tumbling for reduced cost of roll dodge, Sprinter for reduced cost of sprint, Hasty for increased sprinting speed, and then after that it's just up to you. This one's pretty good, Mystic Tenacity, to reduce the duration of elemental status effects applied by you. This is nice for reduced break free cost. This is nice for reduced block cost, for increased amount of damage you can block, or for reduced bash cost. If you do bash weave a lot or use that monster set, you definitely want to put some more points into that then. But yeah, that's it. I hope this video wasn't too long, but it's really fun to play this character this way because you can swap between the different sort of builds so easily. As I said, all you need is one buddy set, 2 sets for head and jewelry, and the Master's Weapons and the Maelstrom Bow. So I hope you enjoy this, have fun with it, and see you next time.